And welcome back to our next training lesson in Toolbox. Now this is going to be a continuation of our previous video where we left off on working with our cross sections and getting our drawings prepared so we can send them off to our customer for approval. Now we have a few more things that we need to add before we can call them done. So let's get back into it and continue with some more training. And now for the final steps of finishing up these drawings. Let's first start off by adding that crown molding. So there's an easy way that we can do that. Obviously we could just simply draw our rectangle and give it the detail that we want. This is a pretty simple crown, so that's not going to be too difficult to do. It's just flat piece of crown with chamfered edges. But if there was something that had more detail than just that, the quick way that you can add that drawing would be by opening up that DWG file in our database. If you don't know where that is, browse to factory data, takes you directly into your current configuration. Graphics, and then moldings, and this is all the DWG files for the moldings that we have. Find the CM07 molding and let's open up that drawing file. Now if Toolbox is trying to open up two separate instances when opening the drawing this way, then the better way to go about it would be opening it up through the File tab under the AutoCAD ribbon. Now let me just show you really quickly what I mean by two separate instances. So when I open up this, we get prompted to let Toolbox open up again on a separate instance. So note, we don't want that to happen. Now if that doesn't happen to you, then don't worry about it, but if you are getting that pop-up or if it is trying to open up separately as another app, then go through AutoCAD and just find the configuration that way. I'm just going to do a copy with base point. So Control-Shift-C, and then for our base point, and now for the object. Now that I have that in my clipboard, go back into our Room 1 drawing. I'm just going to copy and paste, Control-V. Now unfortunately, that's coming in at the wrong scale because of the units that were set on that molding drawing. Not a big deal. Just use our SC command, pick our base point, now R for reference, pick the 2 points for the reference length, and now the new length is 2.5. Your mirror command, erase that source object, and move it over 1/8 of an inch to represent that door gap. So now we have our crown molding, and just so we can show some type of an attachment cleat, we'll just do a simple AutoCAD rectangle, make this 2.5 inches long, and give it a thickness. Type in MA to match properties, and now that looks good. Now that we have that crown molding added, I'm going to go back into our layout here, double click into model space. See that text is going off screen here, so I'm just going to move that with my leader just by right clicking that and going to the dim text position. Now for my dim linear command, and same thing, use that, move that dim text position. And if there was any other additional details that we wanted to add, maybe add a multi-leader with text. Now I'm back into paper space. Now I do want to show a little bit more detail on this tall cabinet, but I don't want it to be in this viewport at this current scale. So let's go back into model space and work on this tall cabinet, but now I'm going to change the drawing scale. So I'm going to change this to something pretty small, maybe 3 inch. Now notice that all the dimensions and everything, they're updating with that new scale because it's a microvellum product, so it has all those different annotative scales inside of it. Just by selecting it, you can see annotative object scale, or to add and delete scales. These are all the different scales that dimension it's using. So that's just coming in from microvellum. There's really no way to change that. But what I want to do is just add some dimensions to our drawer box here, just so you can see something a little bit different. And maybe there was some text. Okay, so now that we have that stuff drawn in a 3 inch scale, I'm going to go back to 3/4 just in model space here. And you'll see what happens. So those updated because we're in a 3/4 inch scale now. But these didn't because the way I had them drawn in originally was at a 3 inch. The reason those scales weren't added is because of this button down here. Typically I have this turned off. That's just the way that I like to work. If that was turned on, then the scale would be added to these new objects. But I don't want that. So now I can go back into my detail page, double clicking in my viewport. Now because I don't want those dimensions to be showing up in this 1 inch scale, I'm going to turn off show annotative objects. And that's going to be just for this detail sheet. So on this detail sheet, when I have model space activated, I'm not going to be showing any annotative objects that are different than this current scale. And now for the enlarged view of those drawer boxes. Now I could just copy this viewport, but I want to show you something that we can do that's a little bit different than that. I'm just going to draw an AutoCAD circle. Now in the AutoCAD ribbon, go to View, Viewports, and select Object. And that could be any object. So any shape, circle, rectangle, whatever. Selecting it now turns it into a viewport. If I wanted to, I can go into the layer and change that layer property. Currently, it's just a 2D dim layer, but that's fine because I do want this to show up on our paper space drawing. Now zooming in real close to my drawer boxes, changing the scale to the same scale that we had when we drew the dimensions and that text, 3-inch. That's coming in super big. You can't see those drawers anymore, but you do see now that those annotative objects are showing up. If I wanted to, I can just increase the size of that circle, show a little bit more of the drawer box. And maybe we'll make it a little fancy here and draw a spline, do it at that tangent. Just something so it's showing that we have that detail enlarged into this new viewport. And one thing that's really nice about annotative scale is you'll notice here that we have the text and dimensions that are all coming in at the same size, right? So even though we're at a 3-inch scale here and a 1-inch scale here, the dimensions look the same, just the images of the actual products are enlarged. All right, so now it's time to take all the work that we've done and package it all up, get it ready to send off to our customer, and sit back and wait for a response. So that's it for now. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time for another training session in Microvellum Toolbox.